Good morning. God's peace to you all. Let's turn right to the Catechism, and we're on. Let's see. We're heading into the second commandment, but I wanted to just. Yeah, we just wanted to. I want to clarify one thing with you, and this is so very important. Heading number 23. Who is able to keep this and other commandments? No person can keep any or all commandments perfectly except Jesus Christ. All those who have faith in him by the power of the Spirit willingly strive to keep these commandments. Okay? Ecclesiastes 7:20. Surely there is not a righteous man on earth who does good and never sins. 1 John 1:8. If we say we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. Many of you have saw the new movie, the Luther movie, and I don't know if they reflect his angst about trying to keep the commandments perfect. All of that, because that is the core of what it means to be, what distinguishes us from many other denominations and many other sects within the Christian faith. And that is that no one is clean, folks. No one is righteous before God. When we rebuke, correct, and love other people into the truth, it must always be in the back of our minds that we are in the same situation as they are in. This allows us the opportunity to be patient and loving towards other people who perhaps struggle with one particular sin over another. But no one is righteous, okay? No one is righteous. And at the core of this is self-righteousness, meaning that we somehow make ourselves right ourselves, and we cannot do that.
What's the tense you're reading there?
It's just not the way it works.
In here.
So, with that in mind, let's go into the second commandment. God's name. The actual commandment is, you shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God.
You don't want to do that.
What does this mean? We should fear, love God, so that we do not curse, swear, use satanic arts, lie, or deceive by his name, but call upon it in every trouble, pray, praise, and thanks.
Person in program.
Now, on heading 24, are all of you with me on this? On heading 24, why do we say in this and in the following commandments we should fear and love God? Now, this is kind of like this kind of is an insert. It deals with the second commandment, but it really deals with all of them. And that is that we should, the fulfillment of all commandments must flow from the fear and love of God. Psalm 111:10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. All those who practice it have good understanding. His praise endures forever. John 14:23. If anyone loves me, he will keep my word. So, there was a theologian, a philosopher/theologian by the name of Paul Tillich, and he used the term ultimate concern. Well, that brings back the past. Ultimate concern. And the ultimate concern for all Christians is that we fear and love God with all our hearts and with all our minds and with all our souls. Now, To do that is the fulfillment of the law,
And then
so
you
we don't
cut
do
it
it
down.
completely or perfectly or even close to it.
See, it's the part of the
But however, this, folks, needs to be our ultimate concern in our lives. This must be our purpose, our guiding principle, the heart and soul of why we live and how we live and when we live and all the things that make us who we are. That's a tall order, isn't it? That's a tall order for anybody. Jesus, in the Bible narrative, Jesus asked Peter whether he loved him. Then he told Peter to feed his sheep. Part of his call was to feed the sheep, and to feed them the love and the knowledge and the grace of God. Now, this ties into the second commandment, and I'll go over that again. Number 23, heading, what is God's name? God has, as he has revealed himself to us, his essence and his attributes. God is what he is. Or particularly in the Old Testament, Exodus 3:14, God said to Moses, I am who I am. And he said, say this to the people of Israel. I am has sent me to you. Now what does that mean necessarily? By the way, that's where the word Yahweh comes from, Yahweh. Yahweh is the transliteration of I am what I am. So, God is God. God is God. So, you're all following me along here?
We're catching it.
You getting it? Okay. We're on page 62. Just to clarify this, you see the page on the left-hand side or on the right-hand side. That's the page number. So we're on page 62. Okay? Then you have the headings 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86. All right? So that's the heading. That is the biblical support for it, or the seed of doctrine, the biblical support for what we're saying here. So folks, if you say that this is a catechism, it's not the Bible, you really need to look at what we're doing here, because this is all Bible. And then it has the heading 26. Heading 26, what does God forbid in the second commandment? So 26 is the heading. Now you go underneath and it says 87. So when you are referring to the biblical portion 87, that is the seed of doctrine for now, so that as you refer to it, you can refer to it as 87. The heading 26, what does God forbid in the second commandment, is the heading. So, in the second commandment, God forbids us to misuse his name. The Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. See, that's biblical quote 87, Exodus 27. You got that? We're following along now? All right. Folks, this is a very important, well, they're all important, but this text is very important for those who speak instead of God, pastors and so forth. There's a lot of charlatans out there, a lot of people that are talking, and God said, and God said, and God said. And we need to be very careful that pastors and people of God who speak on behalf of God speak on behalf of God and say that which God is saying. Okay? And they will be held responsible. Now, a lot of times, and I'm just going to share this with you, a lot of times people get upset with the pastor for something that he said from the pulpit. And we're going to be talking about go tell your brother, and if he sins against you, or if you got a problem with him, go see him. Matthew 18, yeah, Matthew 18. And sadly enough, you know, I've seen people come in and out of churches, 4 of them in particular, and they never learn. They never quite grasp a certain important aspect of the faith. And the reason why is because they cut themselves off short, and they get themselves in a huff, and they leave. Or they don't come back, or they cause problems and they kick the pastor out. This is a very sad thing. Very sad thing indeed. If the pastor is being faithful to the Word and speaking diligently about the law and gospel, then what I would suggest to all of you, and to me as well, and I'm going to be talking about the profoundness of Matthew 18, the growing in the grace and knowledge of God, to speak to somebody who you think has done you wrong, or who you think is doing wrong. There's growth that takes place. I'm not going to do the sermon. I'm not going to do the sermon. Okay, we're not going to do the sermon. The second commandment, God forbid us to misuse his name. Now, many of you, I could name some names. I'm not going to, because I don't want to get into conflict this evening, because some of you watch TV, and some of you watch TV evangelists, and be careful. Just be careful. By the way, just so you know, TV is like a beast. You have to feed the beast. You have to feed the beast with money. It costs a lot of money to go on the air. So what was I saying? There's a lot. You have to feed the beast, and what you have to do is you have to tell the people basically what they want to hear, or what they think they want to hear, or what they... Yeah, like a politician, and you know, you need to feed the beast. The original setup of churches, like Paul, for example, Paul was a tent maker, and this is something that, well, I don't want to, this might be a little too close to home, but one of the things that pastors need to be aware of is they can't always be people pleasers. They can't be people pleasers. And they drop names, and what they do is they become more like politicians, CEOs, businessmen, and less like pastors. So,
I had a discussion yesterday
did you?
with a man, a Baptist preacher, and we were talking about the difference between a pastor and a preacher.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm not sure he agrees completely with me on that. But there's a world of difference.
Well, yeah, anybody could, yeah.
Anybody can be a preacher.
Preacher, yeah.
Not everybody can be a pastor.
Yeah. And just like in any other vocation, can I just tell you, I think I told you this before, I can't drive truck. I don't drive truck. I can't drive truck to save my life. I can't back that puppy up for that.
Wow.
I was just about ready to get it. Figured I was proof for the road. So anyway, some people just, you gotta know your limitations and you gotta know what you gotta do and what you can't do. So how is God's name misused? God's name is misused when people, now you see heading A, speak God's name uselessly or carelessly. This is kind of like, and we do this, by the way, a lot. A lot of us do it. Some of us don't do it. Oh my God. Right? Oh my God. Somebody cuts us off, and you go, oh my God. I think we need to use the name. If we respect and love the Lord, we need to be careful and guard against uselessly or misusing God's name in vain and just throwing it out there all the time. One of the things that they have on Facebook and on the internet is you put OMG, oh my God, so does that constitute, well, it could. We need to be careful of that, about potty mouth, right? Potty mouth, using God's name in vain, cursing, swearing, and using satanic arts, deceiving by his name. One of the clear examples of this was years ago, some guy, TV evangelist, said that God was going to take him if he didn't raise $1 million. Yeah, it was like, okay, first of all, when did he tell you that, and how did he tell you that, and somehow I think he was breaking the second commandment, you know what I'm saying? We do not believe in open revelation. We believe that there's enough meat and potatoes and potato chips in God's Word to keep us busy for a long, long time. We do not have to make stuff up or even deceive by God's name. So we can say that we think, or we believe God was calling us to do this or that at that time or this time or whatever, but we cannot say for certain that God has told us to sell our house. You know what I'm saying? That was a good one. I had a woman in Dayton that was walking alongside me one day, and she said, "Oh, I'm so excited, Pastor. God told me to sell his house." All right. And I didn't want to correct her because she was in a very vulnerable situation at that time, but I think that as it turned out, she didn't sell the house, and thank God, because she was going to give it away. The other thing is, there was a girl that I was counseling. This was in my Patmos days. And she was convinced that God was calling her to marry this guy. And I said to her, well, where did you get that from? Well, I just know God's calling me to marry this guy. Well, could that inner voice that you're hearing is not necessarily from God, but maybe from somewhere else in your insecurities? Or, I mean, you can say you think or you believe that God is calling you to hook up with this guy. As it turned out, it was a total mess. It was a disaster, okay? Now, that doesn't mean that God can't use disasters or mess, but I noticed I just noticed recently in talking to her, she's doing it again. God has called me to do this. No. God has called you to love, to honor, and respect him, to love your neighbor as yourself. God has called you to be chaste and lead a decent life. God has called you to be in faith God has called you to baptism. God has called you to so many things that you can't even imagine. But there are things that God has not called us to, and that's called Christian freedom. Christian freedom is a wonderful thing. And we have to be careful of that, folks. We have to really be careful that we do not curse, swear, use satanic arts, or deceive by his name. Now, the other thing is, I don't know if I did this in a show and tell, or I have done it in the past. I have a handbook on satanic arts in my library. And the reason why I have it is because one time I was at a bookstore, I think it was the Borders bookstore, and in the section of religion, in the section of the Bible and theology and philosophy and all that other stuff, self-help, psychology, they were selling the handbook of witchcraft. And I utilize this that you say, well, curse, swear, use satanic arts. Well, we have Satanists today, and they're running pretty rampant. As a matter of fact, the Satanists are now trying to make it so that they cannot practice their religion and have abortions because what they're doing is they're flip-siding what we do, and that is that we protest in front of abortion clinics. We have a certain distance that we have to go away from the abortion clinic. Well, now the Satanists and the Church of Satan here in America is now reversing that and saying they are having trouble practicing their religion by having abortions, so we need to step back even further. So it's rather curious. And did you know that we have chaplains in the armed forces that are Satanists now? Yeah. Yeah. So, heading number 28, what is cursing by God's name? Cursing by God's name is blaspheming God by speaking evil of him or mocking him. You know that whole text, God will not be mocked. You know, we have a tendency of relying upon the promise that God is a loving God. And he is a loving God. But on the other side of the coin, we need to be careful that we're not in awe and respect of him as well. And that he is certainly God, and that blasphemy is certainly, you know, using the Lord's name in vain and so forth. We need to guard against this stuff. Really, this, by the way, this is chicken wings. This, you see that this is nothing, man. The second commandment is like, I mean, nobody adheres to the second commandment or the sixth commandment anymore or any of that stuff. This is what they call old school. Well, it's not old school, it's new school. And I would suggest strongly that we as Christians continuously renew and rejuvenate our faith by going into the Catechism and reviewing. And I'll tell you another thing, what you need to do is use the Catechism as a devotion. To say out loud the Catechism, you will find that that God will bless you through that. So, anyway, they mocked Jesus when he was hanging on the cross, Matthew 27, 39 through 43. You see where the Bible narratives are? That's what I'm saying here. So, let's go to the biblical text 89, James 3, 9 through 10. With it, the tongue, we bless our Lord and Father, and with it we curse people who are made in the likeness of God. From the same mouth come blessing and cursings. My brothers, these things ought not to be so. Now, natural reaction, by the way, is when we're done wrong. When we're done wrong, and many of us are, have been done wrong a lot. Some of us have been done wrong a little. Our natural inclination is to take vengeance, or some sort of vengeance, or wish, or pray for vengeance against that person. This is not godly. So when we ask God, God, please, you take care of that. You take care of that guy. You take care of that guy. That's just not Christian. You pray for your enemies. You ask the Lord that they might see their way, or might learn from this, or so forth and so on. So we need to guard against being human in the sense that we take vengeance. And that's, you see that in business life and in politics and so forth. What do they say? Be careful, you're on your way up. You might find that going down is even harder. That's because if you're nasty going up, it's going to be tough going down. So anyway, yes.
Matthew, Deuteronomy. Ongoing contract.
Deuteronomy
5 and 6.
Deuteronomy 5 and 6. Chapter 5, verse 6?
No, 5 and 6.
5 and 6.
Both chapters.
Oh, both chapters. Oh, okay. Oh, yes, the Ten Commandments. Yeah, that's where we're getting this from. And the greatest commandment. Yep. This, obviously, the Ten Commandments comes out of Deuteronomy 5 and 6, and also Exodus, is it? And Leviticus, yep. So, all right. All right, we're gonna, any questions so far? We're gonna be talking next time about when it is, if we're not supposed to swear in the name of God, yet we are called to take an oath in court and so forth. How do we come to understand that?
But that's not defaming God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, we're gonna go over it in it's we'll drop it off at 30. You see where it says 30? When we are permitted and even required to swear by God's name. So we'll keep it there. And it talks about it, like Norman was saying, it does not defame God. And so, anyway, any questions?
One thing about swearing,
Uh-huh.
lie in court, using God's name. You just call God a liar.
Yeah.
When you're called to jury duty, you have to say if you tell the truth or whatever.
Yeah.
And witnesses. Yeah.
Even our wedding, even our marriages, we swear by God in that respect. We make a commitment before God. There are times when we certainly have to invoke the name of God in order to establish that which is true and right and noble. But God help you if you're lying, if you're committing perjury or whatever, when you break your promise or so forth and so on. So, so with that in mind, we're gonna close off. We want to keep keep our country in our prayers with all of this racial strife, and it's so sad to see. I don't know what we can do about it, other than what we can do about it. It just seems like it's a crazy world. It always has been a crazy world, but it just seems like it's becoming much more crazy in some respects. So let's bow our heads and say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father,